"We're moving in Monday," my sister Kendra said, smiling across my parents' dining table. I had barely put my purse beside my chair. I looked at her. "Moving where?" She gave a little laugh, like I'd missed something obvious. "Your lake house, Dad already approved." My eyes went straight to my father. "Dad?" Martin didn't look surprised. He calmly cut into his food and said, "Kendra needs somewhere to stay while she gets back on her feet. You have plenty of room." My mother, Carol, nodded. 3 bedrooms, Diane, and most of the time that house is sitting empty." "It isn't sitting empty," I said. "It's mine." I had spent almost 10 years saving and investing before I could buy that $515,000 lake house. My parents hadn't contributed $1. Kendra hadn't contributed $1. Yet somehow, everyone at that table was discussing my home like I was the last person who needed to be consulted. Then Kendra said, "Dad already showed me which bedroom we'll use." I stared at her. "What?" "The one overlooking the water." That was when I understood this was Kendra testing an idea. They had already made plans. And apparently, I was expected to obey them. "No." The word came out before I could soften it. Dad put his fork down. "Diane, don't embarrass your sister over a house." "Over my house." Mom's expression tightened. "Do you hear yourself? Your sister is struggling and you're guarding empty bedrooms like a stranger." That familiar pressure settled over the table. For years, I had been the dependable daughter, the one who avoided arguments, fixed problems, and eventually said yes, because saying no created too much tension. But this time, Kendra wasn't asking me for money or a favor. She was announcing that she was moving into property I owned. I turned toward her. "You're not moving into my lake house." Her smile disappeared. "Well, the movers are already booked." "For what?" "Monday morning." I slowly reached for my phone. Dad sighed. "There's no reason to turn this into some huge confrontation." Then my screen lit up. "Motion diatiacitidi, side entry." I froze. The alert had come from the lake house. Before I could open it, another notification appeared. "Trespassing event recorded." I looked around the table. Kendra was sitting across from me. Mom was beside her. Dad was 3 feet away. Everyone supposedly involved in this move was right there. I raised my eyes to my father. If they were all sitting in front of me, who was already at my house? I lowered my phone beneath the table and opened the live camera feed. A man I had never seen before was standing beside my lake house. He wasn't trying to break into the building. He was taking photographs of the side entrance, then stretching a measuring tape across the doorway. Behind him sat a moving company van. My stomach tightened. I zoomed in until I could read the number printed on the vehicle, stood up, and walked away from the table. "Where are you going?" Dad asked. I didn't answer. I called the company. A dispatcher picked up. "Hi," I said. "One of your employees is currently at my property. Can you tell me why?" After I gave her the address, I heard keyboard clicks. "Yes, we have a pre-move access check scheduled for today." "Pre-move?" "For a relocation, Monday morning." I gripped the phone tighter. "Whose relocation?" "Kendra Wales." I looked through the kitchen doorway at my sister. "And who authorized access to the property?" Another pause. "Our listed contact is Martin Wales." "My father." "Thank you." I ended the call. "Dad, kitchen now." He followed me in, already looking irritated. "You sent someone to my house." I was trying to prevent unnecessary drama by arranging a move without telling me. He crossed his arms. "Kendra needs somewhere temporary, a few months at most." Then he admitted something worse. "I gave her the access code you gave your mother and me." Suddenly, a conversation from 2 weeks earlier made sense. Dad had casually asked, "You haven't changed that lake house alarm code, have you?" At the time, I thought it was strange. Strange enough that I'd changed the temporary code immediately. Dad clearly didn't know that. I stepped closer. When exactly did I agree to any of this? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Mom appeared in the doorway. Diane, we raised you. We helped you become successful. Is it really unreasonable for that success to help your family? That sentence clarified everything. They weren't confused about who owned the house. They simply believed being my parents gave them the right to decide how I used it. Nobody is moving into my lake house, I said. Nobody is entering it without my permission. Dad stared at me for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. He typed something, pressed send, and turned the screen toward me. The message was addressed to Kendra. Don't cancel the movers. Monday stays. By Sunday morning, my mother had turned my refusal into a family emergency. My phone was full of messages. An aunt wrote, **Diane, I really hope you reconsider. A cousin asked, is Kendra seriously going to be homeless when you have an empty lake house? Then I opened our extended family group chat and found Mom's message. She had told everyone Kendra needed temporary housing, and that I was refusing to let my own sister stay in a house I barely used. She left out one important detail. Nobody had asked me before arranging the move. That afternoon, I went to a family barbecue, and the pressure started almost immediately. My aunt cornered me near the patio. Diane, why does one person need every room in a $515,000 house? That's not the issue. Then what is? The fact that Dad promised away property he doesn't own. Kendra heard me. She turned around sharply. You think I wanted this? Then her voice cracked. I already gave notice on my rental. I stopped. You did what? Dad guaranteed me the lake house. I looked at Martin. He didn't deny it. Instead, he announced, Kendra is moving tomorrow. Once everyone settles down, Diane will come around. No, I said, I won't. Kendra stared between us. But Dad said the lake house was becoming the family lake property anyway. That changed something. This wasn't only about letting Kendra stay temporarily. My parents had been talking about my house as if my ownership had an expiration date. I didn't argue. I took out my phone. I saved screenshots of Mom's accusations, Dad's messages, and Kendra's statements about the move. Then I called my security company and confirmed that I was the only person authorized to grant access to the property. After that, I contacted the moving company in writing. The property owner has not authorized delivery, occupancy, or entry. Do not unload anything at this address. Dad watched me send it. His face hardened. You're really doing this? Yes. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. You can change codes, Diane. You can't lock out your own family. Monday morning, I was already inside the lake house when my security system chimed. Vehicle DATACTD, front drive. I checked the camera. The moving truck rolled toward the gate first. Kendra's car followed. Then my parents pulled in behind her. So much for Dad assuming I'd come around. My phone started ringing. Kendra. I let the first call stop. She called again. On the third attempt, I answered. Open the gate. No. Diane, the movers are charging by the hour. That isn't my responsibility. I told you yesterday in writing. I have not given permission for anyone to move into this property. I ended the call. Outside, one of the movers approached the gate while Kendra spoke to him. A few seconds later, the supervisor shook his head. They weren't unloading. Dad climbed out of his car. From the security feed, I watched him walk directly to the keypad. He entered a code. Access DNID. He tried again. Access DNID. And suddenly, his question from 2 weeks earlier made perfect sense. You haven't changed that lake house alarm code, have you? He hadn't been making conversation. He'd been checking whether he could still get inside. Dad marched toward the moving supervisor. My daughter approved this. The supervisor looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the registered property owner contacted us yesterday." I forwarded the written notice again while they stood there. The supervisor checked his phone and turned toward his crew. "Nobody unloads anything." Kendra threw her hands up. "Dad, you said this was handled." "It is." Then he did exactly what I had hoped he wouldn't. Dad walked around toward the side of the property. Kendra followed. I switched cameras. He reached the restricted pedestrian gate and manually opened it. They stepped onto my property. My phone immediately vibrated. Unauthorized entry recorded. "Dad," I said through the outdoor speaker, "leave the property." He looked directly toward the camera. "Kendra, get your boxes." She carried one from her car toward the porch. "Dian's bluffing," Dad told her. I didn't go outside. I didn't scream. I called property security. "This is Diane Wales. I have 2 unauthorized people inside my restricted property after written notice denying entry. The system has recorded it." I gave them the alert information. Outside, Dad finally looked toward the road. For the first time all weekend, his confidence disappeared. He grabbed Kendra's arm. "Put the box down." But before they could get back through the gate, another vehicle turned into the driveway. It slowed beside the moving truck. "Property security." The security officer stepped out and looked from my father to Kendra. "Who owns this property?" Dad started forward. "My daughter does, but this is a family." The officer turned toward the house. I came outside carrying my phone and identification. "I own it." That was the first moment all weekend when Dad wasn't the person everyone looked to for permission. I showed the officer my ownership information and the written notice I'd sent the previous day. The moving company had received it. My family had been told clearly that nobody had permission to move in. Dad tried to interrupt. "This is being blown completely out of proportion." "No," I said. "You were told no." I pulled up the messages. Everything connected now. 2 weeks earlier, Dad had asked whether I'd changed the security code. The question had bothered me enough that I'd immediately replaced the temporary family code and confirmed with the property manager that I was the only person authorized to approve occupants. I'd also started saving messages after realizing my parents were describing my lake house to relatives as future family property. Then came Saturday. The stranger caught by my security cameras hadn't been some random trespasser. He was the moving company representative Dad had arranged to perform a pre-move inspection. Sunday, I explicitly denied permission. And now, on Monday, Dad and Kendra had entered anyway. The officer looked at me. "Do you want them removed from the property?" Dad's expression changed. Mom rushed forward. "Diane, don't do this to your father." I looked at her. He did this after I said no. Kendra slowly turned toward Dad. "Wait." He wouldn't look at her. "Did Diane ever actually agree to let us move in?" "Kendra, this isn't the time." "Did she?" Dad said nothing. Kendra's face fell. "You told me she'd basically agreed." Silence. "You told me to give notice on my apartment." Again, nothing. For the first time, Kendra wasn't looking at me like I had taken a home away from her. She was looking at Dad like she finally understood he'd promised her something that had never belonged to him. I told security I wouldn't pursue charges if everyone left immediately, and there was no further unauthorized entry. Kendra put the box back into her car. Not one piece of furniture crossed my front door. She eventually arranged temporary accommodation while trying to negotiate additional time with her former landlord. I permanently removed every family access privilege from the property. The property manager received written instructions. Being related to Diane Wales did not authorize anyone to enter, approve guests, or arrange occupancy. I thought that would end it. Mom made sure it didn't. She returned to the family group chat and announced that I had called security on my own parents and had them thrown out. This time, I didn't defend myself with paragraphs. I posted the evidence. My original refusal. Dad's message. Don't cancel the movers. Monday stays. My written warning from Sunday. And the security timestamp showing they entered the property afterward. The responses changed quickly. The same aunt who had asked why I needed 3 bedrooms wrote, "Martin, why were you promising Kendra a house you don't own?" Another relative asked why Kendra had been encouraged to surrender her rental without my consent. Dad stopped responding. But the most permanent consequence happened privately. For years, I'd quietly covered part of my parents' monthly expenses. It was another responsibility I'd accepted because being the dependable daughter had always seemed easier than dealing with the guilt that came with saying no. I stopped those payments. Dad called. "So now you're punishing your mother and me financially." "No, I'm ending an arrangement I voluntarily provided." "We're family, Diane. Family supports family." "I agree, but support requires respect. Access to my money isn't automatic any more than access to my house." He had no answer. Months later, the lake house was still mine. Kendra found another rental. Her relationship with our parents never returned to what it had been after she learned how badly Dad had misrepresented my consent. I remained civil with everyone. But visits happened by invitation. No spare keys. No permanent access codes. No decisions made about my property without me. And I stopped explaining my boundaries until the people crossing them decided they were reasonable. The $515,000 lake house didn't destroy my family. It simply revealed who believed loving me meant having the right to what belonged to me.